2. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most famous stories in maritime history, the tale of the RMS Titanic. It was a ship of dreams, a floating palace hailed as unsinkable. Yet its maiden voyage became a legendary tragedy that still fascinates us over a century later. So, grab a seat as we explore the story of its creation, its single fateful journey, and the human cost of its demise. Please subscribe and put like button. The story begins in Belfast, Ireland, at the Harland and Wolff shipyard. Titanic wasn't just a ship, it was a statement of ambition and technological prowess. Construction started in 1909, and it took over 3 years and thousands of workers to bring this colossal vessel to life. Imagine this. The ship was nearly 900 feet long, that's about the length of 3 football fields, and stood as tall as an 11-story building. It was the largest man-made moving object in the world at the time. To make it unsinkable, the designers, led by Thomas Andrews, incorporated a revolutionary safety feature, a double-bottomed hull, and 16 watertight compartments. The idea was that the ship could stay afloat, even if 4 of these compartments were flooded. This was an incredible feat of engineering, and it gave the White Star Line, the company that owned Titanic, immense confidence. They spared no expense on the interior either. First-class passengers enjoyed lavish suites, a grand staircase topped with a glass dome, a swimming pool, a gymnasium, and exquisite dining rooms. It was the absolute peak of luxury travel. On April 10, 1912, the Titanic embarked on its maiden voyage. The atmosphere was electric. The ship set sail from Southampton, England, filled with a diverse mix of passengers. In first class, you had some of the wealthiest people in the world, like John Jacob Astor and Benjamin Guggenheim. Second class was home to professionals, teachers, and authors, while third class was filled with immigrants from all over Europe, carrying their life savings and their hopes for a new life in America. The destination was New York City, a journey across the North Atlantic that was expected to take about a week. For the first few days, the voyage was smooth and uneventful. Passengers marveled at the ship's stability and opulence. The sea was calm, and the weather was clear. But as Titanic ventured deeper into the North Atlantic, the danger of icebergs became a real concern. The ship's wireless operators received multiple warnings about ice fields in their path from other ships in the area. However, not all of these warnings reached the bridge. On the night of April 14th, the sea was unusually calm, making it incredibly difficult for the lookouts to spot icebergs, which are normally detected by the sight of water breaking at their base. Then, at 11:40 p.m., a lookout named Frederick Fleet spotted an iceberg dead ahead. He rang the warning bell 3 times and telephoned the bridge, shouting, "Iceberg, right ahead." First Officer William Murdoch immediately ordered the ship to be steered hard to starboard away from the ice and the engines to be put in reverse, but it was too late. The massive ship was too large and moving too fast, around 22 knots to turn in time. Instead of a head-on collision, the Titanic scraped along the side of the iceberg, creating a series of gashes below the waterline that stretched for about 300 feet. The impact itself was subtle. Many passengers didn't even feel it. But down below, the damage was catastrophic. Seawater began pouring into the ship's forward compartments. The ship's designer, Thomas Andrews, was on board, and after a quick inspection of the damage with Captain Edward Smith, he delivered the grim news. Iceberg had breached not 4, but 6 of the watertight compartments. With the front of the ship filling with water, it would inevitably pull the bow down, allowing water to spill over the tops of the compartment bulkheads, one after another, like water filling an ice cube tray. Andrews predicted the unsinkable Titanic would founder within 2 hours. The great ship was doomed. Panic and confusion began to set in. The crew started preparing the lifeboats. But here lies another critical part of the tragedy. The Titanic was only equipped with 20 lifeboats, enough to carry about 1,178 people. While this number met the legal requirements at the time, it was barely half of the 2,224 people on board. There weren't enough lifeboats for everyone. To make matters worse, the lifeboat drill that was scheduled for earlier that day had been cancelled. The crew was undertrained, and in the chaos, many lifeboats were launched partially empty. The Women and Children First protocol was followed, but the disorganization meant precious space was wasted. As the ship's bows sank deeper, the stern rose high out of the water. The lights flickered and then went out, plunging the ship into darkness. Those still on board faced an impossible choice: go down with the ship or jump into the freezing Atlantic waters, where survival time was a matter of minutes. Survivors reported hearing the ship's band, led by Wallace Hartley, playing music on the deck to calm the passengers, a final act of courage that has become one of the most poignant details of the story. Around 2:20 a.m. on April 15th, the immense stress on the hull caused the Titanic to break into between the third and fourth funnels. The stern section briefly righted itself before it too filled with water and slipped beneath the waves, taking with it all those who remained. The aftermath was a scene of horror. Over 1,000 people were left struggling in the water, which was just below freezing. Their cries for help filled the night air. Of the 20 lifeboats, only one, commanded by 5th Officer Harold Lowe, returned to the scene to search for survivors, but by then, it was too late for most. They had succumbed to hypothermia. The rescue ship, the RMS Carpathia, had raced through the same ice field at full speed after receiving Titanic's distress call, but it arrived about an hour and a half after the ship had sunk. The crew of the Carpathia managed to pull just over 700 survivors from the lifeboats. In the end, the human cost was staggering. Of the 2,224 souls on board, more than 1,500 people lost their lives, men, women, and children. The disaster sent shockwaves around the world. How could a ship so advanced, so celebrated, meet such a tragic end on its very first voyage? The sinking of the Titanic led to major changes in maritime safety regulations. The International Convention for the Safety of Life at Sea, or SLAS, was established in 1914. New rules required that all ships carry enough lifeboats for every single person on board, that lifeboat drills be mandatory, and that a 24-hour radio watch be maintained. The wreck of the Titanic lay undisturbed at the bottom of the Atlantic for over 70 years, its location a mystery. It wasn't until 1985 that a team led by Dr. Robert Ballard finally discovered it, lying in two pieces at a depth of about 12,500 feet. The discovery brought the story back into the public eye and allowed us to see the ghost of the great ship, a silent memorial to all the lives lost on that cold April night. The story of the Titanic endures because it's more than just a shipwreck. It's a story of human ambition and overconfidence, of heroism and cowardice, and a stark reminder of the power of nature. It's a snapshot of a bygone era, with its rigid class structures on full display even in the face of death. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive into the history of the Titanic. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button and subscribe for more explorations into history's most compelling events. See you in the next one. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're rediving deep into the story of a ship that has fascinated the world for over a century, the RMS Titanic. It was a legend before it ever set sail, a symbol of human ambition and technological prowess. But its story became one of history's most haunting tragedies. Let's start at the beginning. In Belfast, Ireland, Titanic was the brainchild of the White Star Line. Built by the renowned shipbuilders Harland and Wolff, construction began in 1909. Imagine the scene: thousands of workers toiling away on a vessel of unprecedented scale. It was the largest man-made moving object of its time, stretching nearly 900 feet long. That's about the length of 3 football fields. The level of detail was astounding. The ship featured a grand staircase topped with a glass dome, luxurious dining saloons, a swimming pool, a gymnasium, and even its own onboard newspaper. It was designed to be the pinnacle of comfort and elegance for its wealthy first-class passengers. But safety was also a major selling point. The Titanic was built with 16 watertight compartments, separated by doors that could be closed from the bridge. The design was so advanced that the ship could supposedly stay afloat even if 4 of these compartments flooded. This led the popular press to famously and tragically label it unsinkable. This single word would echo through history with a heavy sense of irony. On April 10, 1912, the Titanic embarked on its maiden voyage. It set off from Southampton, England, filled with a diverse mix of passengers. In first class, you had some of the wealthiest people in the world, like John Jacob Astor and Benjamin Guggenheim. Second class hosted professionals, teachers, and middle-class families. And in third class, or steerage, were hundreds of immigrants.